the Baseball Times, and it's now January 16th, 2011, and we're going to talk about the team to beat. The team in all of baseball that everybody knows they have to beat. That's the Phillies. Undoubtedly, that's the Phillies. No question, it's the Phillies. They're number one. They're ahead of the Red Sox. And for one big reason, their rotation. They picked up Cliff Lee. They didn't need Cliff Lee, but they picked him up anyways, and they got him, relatively on the cheap side when you think about it. When you think about the other contracts he was given from the Rangers and the Yankees, yeah, it's not a bad price considering. But that gives them one of the best rotations in all of baseball. That is hands down the best rotation. There's no questions asked. Phillies are the team to beat because of their rotation. When you throw out a rotation that has Halladay, Oswalt, Hamels, and now Cliff Lee, that's 4 aces in a row. And then the guy you have as your 5th starter right now is Joe Blanton. I'm sure there are plenty of teams, if they could have get Joe Blanton cheap enough, that they would love to have him as a mid of the rotation guy, a guy that was like 3rd in their rotation. He's a guy that can actually help out some teams, probably. He's not a great pitcher, but he's decent. He's okay. He'll help out. Not a whole lot, but he has the potential. And the fact is, he has taken up a lot of money when you think about it. So maybe the Phillies do shop him. Maybe they find a team that was willing to take him, willing to trade for him. Who knows? Otherwise, the Phillies got to kind of eat that salary and keep him on the team as a 5th starter, which isn't that bad, given all considering. But if I was another team, I would be scared. Not necessarily scared. I would just be like, it doesn't matter when I'm facing the Phillies. More times than not, 4 times out of 5, you're gonna run into an all-star ace. It's crazy. And the fact is that people are already talking about that rotation as if it's one of the best in history. Possibly. It has that potential. When you look at Roy Halladay, who last year pitched a perfect game, a no-hitter, and ended the season with a 2.44 ERA. That's insane. And you got Cole Hamels, who ended the season with a 3.06 ERA. Not to mention Roy Oswalt, who, when he got traded over to the Phillies, pitched a 1.78 ERA to finish off the season. And now you're just adding in Cliff Lee. It's crazy. It really is. That's by far the best rotation in baseball. And then their bullpen is good. You go back and look at their bullpen. They still got the closer, Brad Lidge. He's going to do well. Hopefully he rebounds, does a little bit better. He should be. He's got the ability. You got Contreras is still there. You got Romero who's still there. Their bullpen's not bad. They got a decent, solid bullpen that should help them out. But the way their rotation is, they're not going to need their bullpen much. You got a lot of innings eaters when you're talking about Halladay and you're talking about Lee. It's crazy what they're doing, what they have the ability to do in the season. And it's really going to pay off once you get later on in the season and you get closer towards playoff time, and you're going to need your bullpen guys. They're going to be fresh because they haven't been overworked throughout the entire season because of the rotation that they have. And so that's really going to help them out. And you also, when you look around their infield and outfield, there's really not a whole lot of difference. They got the same core group of guys as they did last year. You still got Howard, you still got Utley, you still got Polanco and Rollins and Ruiz and Ibanez and Victorino and stuff. You still got all the core guys. They didn't change that. And what I noticed is that when I went back and looked at these guys and looked at their stats from last year, almost every single one of them had a down year. Chase Utley, down year. Ryan Howard, down year. Jimmy Rollins, down year. Polanco. It seemed like half of their guys had down years. I remember going to the Phillies game midsummer, And here I am at Citizens Bank Park, watching the game, and this was at the time that the Phillies were like a 500 team. They were like 500, somewhere around there. They kind of had injuries. They weren't playing as well as they could. That had the potential. They just weren't playing it. So it's possible that the Phillies could be like the Tigers of just a few years ago, where the Tigers, on paper, it looked phenomenal. They looked like the best team in baseball on paper, but when it came time to put it out on the field, it just never materialized, and they just never had that team that they had the potential to be. And so it's possible that it could be with this Phillies team, but I don't expect that to happen. I expect guys like Howard and Utley to kind of bounce back more and do better this year. And if those guys do better this year, automatically, hands down, bam, this team is going to the World Series. As long as their offense can kind of help stay healthy, and as long as they don't have their down years, they're going to be fine, because pitching staff isn't going to need much run support. You give them 3-4 runs a game, they're going to win you a game almost every time. As long as you can put up a few runs a game, you're golden. So they're going to do really good. And I noticed something like when you take Jimmy Rollins, he only played 88 games last year. That's only 88 games. If you could have him back in the lineup playing 150 games, that would be just a huge bonus already. Just having that extra defense. And so the Phillies, to me, from last year, they had a lot that they can prove. They have a lot of improvement that they can do. I mean, to do what they did last year and to make it almost to the World Series, that's crazy. And now you add in Cliff Lee, and now you keep Roy Halladay for an entire year. That changes a lot, and that's going to greatly improve their team. The Phillies, by far, are the best team in baseball. When you look at, from an offensive standpoint, the capability, you look at the rotation, I say that their weakest point right now is their bullpen. They've got guys in there, they've got great guys, but you just really kind of think about it, you're like, I don't know. But the good thing is that even though their bullpen is more of a weaker spot, and it's not really weak at all, but it's one of their weaker points, thankfully, to counteract that, you've got a great rotation. And as I said a moment ago, that rotation's going to eat innings. They're going to go 6, 7 innings, 8 innings, maybe even 9 innings, at times. And so your bullpen isn't going to get used a whole lot. At least you hope, and everybody hopes. Every Philly fan hopes the bullpen doesn't have to get used a lot, and they probably won't, which is going to be phenomenal, because you're really going to need your bullpen when it comes to closer to playoff time, and it's going to be nice to have a fresh bullpen ready to go. So Phillies are looking great. Let's see if it translates onto the field. Hopefully it's not like the Tigers just a few years ago. And so we'll see what happens. I mean, hopefully guys can bounce back like Utley and Howard and Rollins, and these guys can get healthy and do well. Because if so, the Phillies are going to go on a tear, and teams better watch out, because Phillies are coming, and they're coming fast and hard. So be prepared. I can't wait. I'm definitely gonna have to watch some Phillies games this year, because it's just gonna be that insane, I feel. So we'll see what happens in 2011 as the season now approaches more closely. Can't wait till April. See what happens then. But that's all for now from the Baseball Time.